Hi viewers, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to discuss about communication. So in communication, so it is a big topic. In that communication, we are going to talk about channels of communication. So communication is nothing but it is the exchange of ideas, thoughts, emotions. So whatever you want to convey or discuss with some other person, we term it as communication. Okay. So in that communication, we have elements of communication. So what are the basic elements for communication? So first we have the sender. Sender is the person who wants to convey the information to somebody, the person who is conveying the information, the sender of the message. And then we have message. So whatever message we want to tell. So if you want to talk about something, okay, so that particular information that you are going to say it as a message. Then we have the coding, that is encoding. Encoding in the sense, how are you going to communicate? Either it is a verbal communication, it is a non-verbal communication, how you are going to present it to the audience. So that you say it as encoding, the way of presentation. And then we have the channel of communication. Channel in the sense like the mode of communication, that is like you want to say it through a telephonic conversation, a direct conversation, an interview conversation. So whatever it is, so it is the channel, the way how you are going to convey. And then we have the decoding. Decoding in the sense like whatever the message that was encoded, that was given. Okay, so that message, how you are perceiving, how you are receiving, the receiver, how he is taking the message. So that is your another element of convey. And then we have feedback. Finally, the receiver has to tell whether the communication is understood or not. That is like whether it is reaching the receiver, that is the receiver has understood the communication properly. So that is with your elements. Okay, so we are not going to discuss all these things in detail, we are just worried about the channels of communication. So in your elements we have sender, message, encoding, channel, decoding and feedback. So these are the basic elements. Okay, so with these basic elements we are going to talk about the channels or the types of communications. Okay, when you come to communication, the basic communication is in two methods. Okay, so one is your intrapersonal communication and interpersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication, that is the communication between me. So that is the way how I communicate, how I understand, how do I think about myself. Okay, so my understanding, my prayers, the way how I get motivated, how do I have positive thoughts, how do I pray, how do I relax, all these things come under intrapersonal communication. That is like communication between myself, the way how I communicate with myself. And then we have the interpersonal communication. So interpersonal communication is the communication between myself and with the member whom I have to send the information. So message communication between two members, that is your interpersonal communication. So intrapersonal communication and interpersonal communication, you have two methods of communication. And then coming to the other method, we have group and mass communication. So what is group communication? Group communication in the sense like you have members with you communicating. So if it is a small group, so around 10 to 20 members, you have a small group communication. So how you have a group discussion like that. So that is your small group communication. And then we have big group communication, that is like 50 members, 100 members sitting in a group. Maybe it is a conference, a meeting or something like that. You have a group communication where you want to convey an information to many members, that is your group communication. And then we have mass communication. So mass communication, we have an information that is sent to many people through many channels. Okay, so different mass medias, you are using a radio, a television, a mobile, whatever it is, like you are going to convey to many people. Okay, so that is with your Mass communication. So till now we have discussed the 4 methods of communication, that is the intrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, mass communication and group communication. So we have 4 communication pattern discussed, okay. And then we have 2 type of communication. So the method of communication, the way, so you can term it as verbal communication and non-verbal communication. So verbal communication, as the meaning says, it is with the words. So either you can talk or otherwise you can write. So anyway it means the same, okay. It is like either a written conversation or otherwise a spoken conversation. So anything you term it as a verbal communication, where you are using words to convey information. That is your verbal communication, where you have 2 types, that is your spoken and your written communication. Then we have the non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication, as the term says, it is the without words. So it is your body language, the way how you present yourself, the way how you talk, the way you have to stand. All these things come under your non-verbal communication. So in non-verbal communication, you have first is the gesture. Gesture in the sense that is your posture, how you are going to stand. So just imagine you are going to stand in front of a classroom for a presentation. So how do you present yourself? The way of dressing, you stand in front of the mirror, you look yourself whether like I am looking neat, how do I present before others, okay. Then how do I stand? Some people, they have a habit of standing like keeping their hands on the hip, keeping their hands on the shoulders, then on the head, all these are different postures. So you must know the way how you have to stand or how you have to present yourself in front of a group. So that is your gesture. So you must have a very good gesture when you are standing in front of others. And then we have the facial expression, okay. So facial expression, in the sense it means you are smiling, you are angry, your frowning faces, your blushing faces, and like sometimes you don't like, okay, you show angry faces, and all those things come under facial expressions, okay. So whenever you stand in front of a group, it is always you must have a pleasant or a conveying facial expression, that is your neat. A smile shows like you are presentable and you want to communicate to the group in a proper way. So that is a good way of communication. And then we have eye contact. Eye contact in the sense the way how you talk with the people. So whenever you talk with somebody, you must look at the eyes of the people and then you have to talk. So that we say it is a good proper communication, where you are confident, you are bold to convey the information to the person who is standing in front of you, okay. So that is your eye to eye contact. It has to be a direct eye to eye contact during communication. And then we have touch. Touch, what does this touch convey, okay. So touch is something a very important mode of communication. Many a times touch, just a touch, gives a very healing effect for the patient, okay. So when you are there in the ward, sometimes there is a death, sometimes there is a grief, pain, where you cannot help, okay. In those conditions, just a touch, so we say it is a healing touch, okay. So you touch the patient, you give them a consoling word telling that everything will be corrected, God is there, let us pray. So all these words, they console the patient. So we say touch is a very important non-verbal communicating posture, okay. So it is a very effective method of communication, of course. And then we have the posture, that is like already I said, posture in the sense your different way, the posture, you are standing, you are bending, you are like whenever you want to stand, you stand straight, your shoulders straight, and then you communicate. So that shows like you are confident. Sometimes you are not like confident, you are like little worried, you go to an interview, suppose you are scared, like whether I will answer the question, I will clear the exam, all these doubts. Okay, so what you do, you shrug your shoulders and like you don't sit in proper position, all those things, like it shows an improper communication method. Okay, so your postures, they play a very effective role during communication. And then we have silence. So silence, what does this silence going to do? Yes, it is going to do a great lot of thing. Okay, so sometimes like there is a death in the family and you can't go and tell, so whatever is happening, everything is for good, that you can't go and tell. Okay, so don't worry, you can't go and tell. Okay, so that is a great loss for them. Okay, you can't just with the verbal communication, you can't convey an information at that time. So at that time your silence plays a major role. You silently sit with the patient, you console them no, in the sense like your silence is going to console them. Okay, so these are the different non-verbal communication methods we have, where we have gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, touch, postures and silence. So all these are very effective non-verbal communication methods. And then we have the based on the flow of communication. So based on the flow of communication, how do you divide communication, or how do you categorize the channels of communication? So according to the flow of communication, we have 4, that is like one way, two way, formal and informal. So one way communication in the sense like how do I talk? Okay, I keep talking, I think I am conveying my information, whatever I want to tell, that I am telling to my group. So that is my thought of conveying an information. So it is only one way communication where you are not able to interact with me. So that is a one way communication. And then we have the two-way communication method. Two-way communication is a common method of discussion. How do you do in the schools, college level, like where you sit in front of the teacher, you communicate. The teacher talks to you, she takes a lesson, she will give an information, you will ask a doubt, you get clarified with your content. So that is two-way communication, or your discussion method of communication. And then we have the formal method of communication. Formal method of communication in the sense you are going for a meeting where you are presenting a topic, where you are presenting a content, a proposal. All these things are very formal type of communication where somebody cannot interfere with your conversation or your communication. During your communication, nobody talks, and if there is any queries, if there is any confusions or questions, that has to be asked only in the later period, that is like when you give a chance, okay, for the question session, like that, at that time they will be talking. Okay, so that is your formal communication. And your informal communication, informal communication is like you talk, they ask something, you discuss, whatever answer you want to tell, you will be telling. Okay, so all these things are the different types of channels of communication. So in today's class, we have discussed about communication, the different elements of communication, the sender, message, encoding, channel, decoding and the feedback. And coming to the types of communication, we have seen the intrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, the mass communication and the group communication. So then coming to the different type of communications, we have the verbal and non-verbal communication. In verbal communication, we have seen written communication and your spoken communication. Non-verbal communication, we have discussed about the gestures, eye contact, the postures, silence and touch, facial expression, all these things we have discussed. Then finally we have the flow of conversation. So according to the flow of communication, we can divide the communication into one-way communication, two-way communication, formal and informal. So we have 4 methods of communication. So with this we finish communication or the channels of communication. Hope you understood the class. In case if any doubts you have, kindly communicate in the comment box. Till then, take care. Bye.